$100. That's it. That's all it takes to own a piece of the 500 biggest companies in America. Most people don't believe me when I say that. They've been told their whole lives that investing is something you do later, after the raise, after the debt, after you've magically saved up some serious money. So let me show you the exact steps instead. No jargon. No upsells. No it depends. By the end of this video, you will know precisely how to take $100 and put it to work today. Here's why this matters more than almost anything else you'll do with your money this year. The single most powerful force in building wealth isn't how much you earn. It isn't a hot stock tip. It isn't timing the market. It's time, specifically, how long your money sits there quietly compounding. And the brutal truth about time is that you can never get it back. Every month you wait to start is a month your money never gets to grow. I'm going to show you something at the end of this video, a number that proves just how expensive waiting really is. Keep that in the back of your mind, because once you see it, you will never look at "I'll start investing later" the same way again. But before any of that, we need to clear away the lies. Because the only reason you haven't started already is that someone, somewhere, sold you on a myth. And there are 3 of them. Myth number 1, you need a lot of money to start. 20 years ago, this was actually true. You needed enough cash to buy whole shares, and you often needed $1,000 just to open an account. A single share of an S&P 500 fund could cost you hundreds of dollars on its own. That world is gone. In 2026, the overwhelming majority of major brokerages let you start with $1. Not 1,001. The technology that made this possible is called fractional shares, and we'll get to exactly how it works. For now, just understand, the "you need a lot of money" excuse died years ago. Nobody told you, because nobody profits from you knowing. Myth number 2, you need to be an expert. You don't need to read balance sheets. You don't need to watch the financial news. You don't need to know what the Federal Reserve is doing this week. In fact, the data is overwhelming and a little embarrassing for the experts. The simple, boring strategy I'm about to show you beats the vast majority of professional money managers over the long run. Not some of them, most of them. The people who get paid millions to pick stocks usually lose to a strategy you can set up in 10 minutes. Myth number 3, it's too risky, I could lose everything. This one's worth slowing down for. Could a single company go to zero? Absolutely. Companies fail all the time. But when you buy what I'm going to show you, you're not betting on one company. You're buying a tiny slice of hundreds of them at once. For all 500 of the biggest American companies to go to zero simultaneously, the entire economy would have to cease to exist, and at that point, your money would be the least of your problems. Yes, the value will go up and down. That's normal. That's the price of admission. But historically, over long stretches of time, the direction has been up. But historically, over long stretches of time, the direction has been up. Roughly 40% of younger adults say they don't invest because they don't have enough money. That myth, and these 2 others, are quietly costing an entire generation their future. Roughly 40% of younger adults say they don't invest because they don't have enough money. That myth and these 2 others are quietly costing an entire generation their future. So let's kill all 3 for good. Here are the 5 steps. Before you can buy anything, you need an account to buy it inside. And this is the very first place people get stuck, so let's make it simple. You have 2 main choices, and the difference between them is mostly about taxes. The first is a standard brokerage account. Think of this as the flexible, no-rules option. You can put money in, you can take money out whenever you want, and there are no contribution limits. The trade-off is that when your investments grow and you eventually sell, you'll owe taxes on the gains. For most beginners, this is the simplest place to start, and there's nothing wrong with it. The second option is a Roth IRA, and this is the one most people overlook, which is a mistake because it's one of the best deals in the entire financial system. A Roth IRA is a retirement account with a kind of magic built in. You put in money you've already paid taxes on, it grows for decades, and when you take it out in retirement, you pay zero tax on all of that growth. None. In 2026, you're allowed to contribute up to $7,500 a year if you're under 50. So which one should you choose? Here's my plain English rule. If this is money you genuinely won't need until retirement, open the Roth IRA. That tax-free growth is too good to pass up. If you want the freedom to access the money sooner, or you're not sure yet, start with a standard brokerage account. You can always open the other one later. The worst choice here is to keep doing what you're doing now, which is nothing. Opening either account is free, takes about 10 minutes on your phone, and requires nothing more than your basic personal information and a way to link your bank. Don't overthink the broker. Either the big, reputable, well-known names are all fine for what you're doing. The boring choice is the right choice. That's step one. You have an account. Now, what do you actually put in it? This is the step where people freak out and the step the whole video hinges on. So pay attention, because the answer is far simpler than the financial world wants you to think. You are not going to pick individual stocks. Not today. Picking the next winning company is a game where even the professionals usually lose, and there's no reason for your first $100 to be a gamble. Instead, you're going to buy something called an index fund. Here's what that actually means without the jargon. An index fund is a single investment that holds hundreds of companies inside it at once. The most famous one tracks the S&P 500, that's an index of the 500 largest companies in the United States. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, the companies whose products are probably within arm's reach of you right now. When you buy one share of an S&P 500 index fund, you instantly own a microscopic slice of all 500 of them in one move. This solves your risk problem automatically. If one company stumbles, the other 499 carry the load. You're not betting on a horse, you're buying the whole track. And historically, that whole track bet has returned somewhere around 10% a year on average. Some years are up huge, some years are down hard, but averaged over decades, that's roughly the number. There's one more thing to check, and it's the only technical thing in this entire video: the expense ratio. That's the small annual fee the fund charges you. You want this number to be tiny. The best index funds charge between 0 and 0.2%, and a few now charge literally nothing. As a rule, if the expense ratio is under about 0.1%, you're in great shape. If you ever see a fund charging 1 or 2 full percent, walk away. Over 30 years, high fees can quietly eat a fortune. So to be completely concrete, you're looking for a low-cost index fund that tracks a broad market like the S&P 500 or the total U.S. stock market. The well-known ones from the major fund companies all do the same basic job. Pick one. Don't agonize. The difference between the top options is rounding error compared to the difference between investing and not investing at all. You've got an account. Now comes the part everyone thinks is impossible on a budget: actually buying it with just $100. This is the moment the old myth completely falls apart. Because a single share of that S&P 500 index fund might cost $500, $600, sometimes more. So how does someone with $100 buy in? The answer is the quiet revolution I mentioned earlier: fractional shares. A fractional share means exactly what it sounds like. Instead of being forced to buy one whole share, you can buy a piece of one. If a share costs $500 and you have 100, you simply buy 1/5 of a share. You still own a real slice of those 500 companies, just a smaller slice. Your money is fully invested. Nothing is sitting on the sidelines. Let me walk you through the actual click path, because no fluff means I show you the real thing, not a vague pep talk. You open your brokerage app. You transfer your $100 in from your linked bank. This usually takes a day or two to settle the first time. You search for the index fund you chose in step 2 by its ticker symbol, which is just its short code, a few letters long. You tap Buy. And here's the key part. Instead of entering a number of shares, you switch the order to dollars and you type 100. You tap Buy. And here's the key part. Instead of entering a number of shares, you switch the order to dollars and you type 100. You confirm. That's it. You are now an investor. You own a piece of the American economy. The thing that felt locked behind a velvet rope your entire life took about 90 seconds and $100. Sit with that for a second, because the hardest part is genuinely over. Everything from here is about protecting and growing what you just started. Here's the uncomfortable truth about investing. The strategy isn't what trips most people up. They trip themselves up. They forget to invest. They get busy. They tell themselves they'll do it next month, and next month becomes next year. So we're going to remove you from the equation entirely. This is the move most beginners skip, and it's the one that quietly makes all the difference. Inside your account, turn on automatic investing. Almost every brokerage offers this now. You set a rule once. For example, move $50 from my bank into this index fund on the 1st of every month, and then you never think about it again. The money moves on its own. The shares get bought on their own. Your wealth builds in the background while you live your life. Why does this matter so much? 2 reasons. First, it makes investing a default instead of a decision. You don't have to find the motivation every month because there's no decision left to make. Second, by buying automatically on a schedule, you naturally buy more shares when prices are low and fewer when prices are high without ever trying to guess the market. The professionals have a fancy name for this. You don't need to know it. You just need to switch it on. $100 to start is the spark. Automation is the engine. The final step isn't about buying anything. It's about what you don't do, and it's where most people quietly destroy their results. At some point, maybe next month, maybe next year, the market is going to drop. Hard. You'll open your app and see that your money is worth less than you put in. The headlines will be screaming. People around you will be panicking. And every instinct in your body will tell you to sell, to get out, to save what's left. Do not. This is the exact moment that separates people who build wealth from people who don't. When you sell in a panic, you turn a temporary dip on a screen into a permanent, real loss in your life. The investors who win are not the smartest in the room. They're the calmest. They understand that downturns are not the system breaking, they're the price you pay for those long-term returns. The market has fallen apart and recovered to new highs over and over again throughout history. So here is your job during a crash: nothing. Keep your automatic investing turned on. Keep buying. Those low prices you're so afraid of? Your automation is quietly using them to buy you more shares on sale. The boring investor who did nothing almost always beats the clever one who tried to outsmart the dip. And while you're at it, protect your returns from one more silent threat: fees. We covered this in step 2, but it bears repeating. Keep your costs low, keep your hands off the panic button, and time does the rest. 5 steps. Account, fund, money, automation, discipline. That's the entire game. Now let me show you why it's worth it, the number I promised you at the start. Remember the loop I opened at the beginning? Here's where it pays off. Let's say you do exactly what we described. You start with your $100 and you automate $100 a month after that. Nothing dramatic, just over $3 a day, less than a single coffee and a snack. And let's use that historical average return of around 10% a year. In 10 years, you'd have contributed about $12,000 of your own money. But your account wouldn't say 12,000. But your account wouldn't say 12,000. But your account wouldn't say 12,000. It would be somewhere around 20,000. The market did the rest. Keep going. In 20 years, you've put in around $24,000 of your own, but the balance would be somewhere near 75,000. Now stretch it to 30 years. Your contributions total about $36,000. Money you'd have spent on things you wouldn't even remember. And the account? Somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000. Look at that gap. You put in $36,000. You ended with $200,000. That extra $160-some-thousand wasn't your labor. It was time and compounding doing the heavy lifting, the exact force you give up every single month you wait. That's the real cost of later, not the $100. The decades of growth that $100 never got to have. So here's my challenge to you, and I mean today, not after this video, not this weekend, today. Open the account. It's free and it takes 10 minutes. If you can only spare $10 instead of $100, fine, do it with 10. The number was never the point. The starting was always the point. Take the first step while it's fresh, because the version of you 30 years from now is built entirely out of the small moves you make right now. If this finally made investing make sense, if it cut through the noise the way it was supposed to, do me one favor and subscribe. This channel exists to give you the straight, data-backed truth about money that the financial world would rather keep complicated. And once your account is open, your very next question is going to be, where does the money to invest even come from each month? That's exactly what we tackle in the next video, a budgeting system built for people who genuinely hate budgeting. It's the perfect next step, and it's waiting for you right now. Start today. Your future self is counting on it. Your future self is counting on it.